Welcome to the Union Fitness Podcast with your hosts, Todd Hammer and
the Killer Mike of Union Fitness, CJ.
Charles Jasper. He is the Hall to my oats. And we are so pumped because we're back recording again. Third episode since reopening, so this is big. We have a good friend.
From the Dirty South.
From the Dirty South, a dude.
Hot Atlanta.
Atlanta, known wide and far in the strength and conditioning, strongman, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, prowler, push challenging world.
Kool-Aid drinking.
Kool-Aid drinking. My man, Zach Reed. Zach Reed, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Zach, is that dog I hear in the background?
Yes. So I'm hoping he stays quiet, but I may have to put him in his cage in a minute.
Oh, put him in his place.
It sounds like a little dog. Is it?
Yeah, it's a Jack Russell. So I was actually on way back when during the COVID, we had a Zoom meeting with football, and I didn't turn my mic off, and all you could hear was "Get in your cage," and then all the coaches were like, "Do you have like somebody held hostage there?"
Yeah. Someone in your basement, deep buried away.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to know because
it puts Curtis, the lotion on its skin.
Curtis, who works here, he's a big, strong fella. What did he pull, 780, 790?
Yeah, squatted 8.
Yeah, squatted 8. I mean, he's a big, strong fella, and his dog's about 4 pounds.
Yeah.
Where, my best deadlift's like, 210 pounds, and my dog's 110 pounds. Is there a correlation? What's going on here, guys?
It's like the people that hang those things off their trucks, too,
Yeah, well, and then CJ has a medium dog.
Mm-hmm. Medium lifts.
So maybe I need to get a smaller dog, Josh. What do you think?
All I know that it works really well in the belt line.
Nice.
So the belt line's a little walking area here that I can get on. It's pretty close, so he gets a lot of good compliments.
Nice. Well, here, a lot of our listeners don't know you, people from here in Pittsburgh. So tell us about yourself.
So I'm a Georgia native, even though I lived in Florida and Tennessee a little bit. But for most of my life, I've lived in Georgia, and I've spent the better part of 10 years in downtown Atlanta right now. So even though it is hot Atlanta, it's pretty chilly here, actually. And I live in the heart of the city to where all the graffiti and the freaks, geeks, and weirdos, that's basically where I live. So it's pretty eclectic. It's a nice bohemian area. Todd, you'd love it. So it's
CJ.
Yeah, CJ, you'd love it as well.
I'm all for it.
So I played college football, and then I was basically, when I played football, we never had a full-time strength coach. Or it was a full-time person, but it was every 2 years it would be somebody different. So it was never necessarily a longevity of it. It was a lot of transition and turnover. And so basically when I got done playing, they're like, all right, Zach, you're the lifter of the team. You're in charge now. And so that's originally how I got my start. Even though I'm a certified PE teacher, I stayed as a graduate assistant and was just thrown right in the fire. Went from Zach, the player, to Coach Reed, the coach. So I stayed and coached a couple of years, and then I was pretty fortunate to work for someone that I played for in high school as a high school teacher for 8 years. And then during that time, I still had some aspirations and desires to be a college strength coach. So I had an opportunity at Georgia Tech where I was actually an unpaid intern. I quit my job, went in and then became a paid intern and made a large $500 a month. That was
nice.
That was great. And then I got hired on. So it was basically I was in the right time at the right place. And then I spent 10 years there.
You said I was, right place, right time, whatever. I'm going to call BS on that, and here's why. I truly believe, and everyone I've met in almost any profession, but strength and conditioning specifically, they always say that, hey, I got lucky, or this fell into my lap. But, you put that work in because you were what, 30 years old, making $500 a month.
That's what helped. Yeah, I was 33, so I wasn't wet behind the ears, right?
Yeah, and there you are making $500 a month, so nothing fell in your lap. You were working. You were in the weight room every day. Shall I even say grinding?
#grinding. grinding.
Definitely one of the last things you want to do as somebody with 10 years experience going in is saying that something's beneath you or there's some kind of menial task you're not going to do. But you got to stock the fridge. You got to clean the shakes, everything. You got to do it all, right? You got to show that you're serious about it. And this is something for a lot of young coaches too. You got to make a quick impression. I think you can change impressions, but you got to go in and be ready to work. Definitely from day one. Every day is you're being evaluated at all times.
Pat Ivy said it. Every day is a job interview.
Yeah.
And I think, with young coaches, young professionals specifically, where you don't have that reputation yet, I mean, you have to think about that every day.
Yeah.
And I think that's gold right there. And I think so many people miss that. Every single day is a job interview. It's funny. Josh, who is our producer here, does a great job with us. Happens to work with my wife. Happened to work with a good friend of mine, and it's such a small world. You never know. So when you say, "Hey, here I am. I was unpaid, then I went up to $500 a month. Then a position opened up, and I got that position." It was the hard work. It was the credibility that you had built that put you in that position, and I think people need to appreciate that. But so what teams did you work with during your time at Georgia Tech? And we'll get into the fact that it's past tense now a little bit.
Yeah.
But tell us about that.
So I started working for Neil Peduzzi, and he's actually at a private high school here now. I had 3 different bosses as far as the football side. John Sisk, who's actually right up the road at Georgia State, and then Lou Caralla. But so I was an assistant for football. Then I was a head track and field strength coach after the second year. So starting the second year, someone had left, and so it was a great transition. And that to me was it was definitely a great part of my job because I got to work with just different. I love football. I played football. But I wanted to be around some different people, so male and female, and who doesn't want to work with people that sprint and jump, right? So that's it was great to work with him because I learned so much, not just on a training, programming aspect, but a people aspect.
And so you had track the whole time you were there, correct?
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Nice. Was that unusual? Because I know a lot of the Power Fives are getting away from that now, where you're just football. How were you able to hang on the track?
Well, I was asked if I wanted to not have them anymore at one point, and I said no. It was too enjoyable, and I think it worked because I made it work. It's hard to say exactly why it worked. It's just I continued to do my job on both ends, and it was never any kind of, I guess, slipping of my duties and responsibilities to where it was like, well, Zach can't manage both, and I just seemed to navigate it fairly well, and it was just something I didn't want to give up. So I guess I was going to fight them tooth and nail. They didn't want to have that battle, I guess.
I want to go loaded question now. Ooh. So you worked with male, female athletes. Who do you like more, male or female athletes training?
That's a good question. I'm gonna say female, just so I can give them a lot of, just pump them up because I like both of them. I really can't pick, but the females were great. And one of the big things too that I would say with recruits, because the first thing they're going to see when the weight room, other than the weight room, is going to be me, and they think that we're going to do a football workout. Mm-hmm. And I would always tell them one of the first things that if I make you to look like me, then I need to get fired. My job is not to get you bigger, right? So don't. It's because there's a lot of apprehension, especially from the female athletes, and I think working with them was a great responsibility because I was like, hey, let me just give me some time, and you'll see exactly what I can do for you. And it's not going to be. I'm not going to get you full blown, and it's all about maximal gains and muscle or anything like that. So it was a proving ground, and it was good for me.
Now, let's take a second here because I think a lot of people don't know, like, working Power 5 football, you wake up and you're already setting things up, and you go to bed and you probably have things set up and thinking about the next day. How did you have time to train train yourself, because obviously you have a background in strongman and stuff, and still have some semblance of a enjoyable life outside of the weight room?
I'm pretty meticulous about my schedule, and I think a lot of it is being setting down a plan but being flexible. So I would always prepare. I'd get up early and I'd get food ready. I would always almost every single time eat before I left the house, make sure I had a good meal. I would make sure I had certain meals planned, and then if I had to take advantage of the cafeteria, I would. But I had a lot of stuff planned, and just really I would set out a schedule, and and that's where somebody, like if I was training somebody and it was like they were 15, 30 minutes late, I would say, hey, look, you don't understand how important 15, 30 minutes are to me. So it's something like we got to be very prepared on the front end and proactive with our time. But you know how it is with football, especially these last 2 years, something always came up, and you just got to do the best you can with what you're given. So obviously training is tertiary to it all, and it's just going to take a back seat. So even with that, you got to say, hey, I got X amount of time. What am I going to do? Right? What are my majors? And that helps me really solidify and focus on what I need to do in order to be successful. So it's really a lot on the, just to sum it all up, it was planning, a lot of planning, a lot of time management.
So as a guy that's competed, do you think being a strength coach helps or hurts you as a lifter?
That's I don't want to speak for anybody else. I guess I'm only going to speak for me. I think it helped because here's the thing. It's very easy to call somebody out for not doing something, but you have to do it yourself. And so you don't even have to compete. I think as a strength coach, you should train. I don't think you have to compete per se, but you kind of forget what it's like to, okay, I got to make sure I get a certain amount of sleep. I got to, like, I'm telling everybody to drink this, eat that, and get enough sleep, but am I doing the same thing? So a lot of it, you just have to question your own self, and you come back and say, am I doing those things? And you really have to become coachable too. So when I did strongman, and you go in there and you do, say, a log clean. Well, clean is just, and clean, it's in the name only. It's not a clean like an Olympic clean. It is not a clean in any way. Even an axle clean is basically a continental clean that you set across your belly, and just hopefully when you press it, you don't drop the bar on your head. I mean, they actually have rules like that. So it's kind of like you learn how to do stuff technically sound, but then you almost have to unlearn some of the stuff, because really there are some rules to strongman, no doubt, but if you get it, you get it. So it's kind of, it's a lot more brute strength and unorthodox. So being somebody that I thought was technically sound, I think a lot of times it hurt me. I had a good strength base, but it was like, now you just kind of have to, it's one of those things like Yoda said, you got to unlearn something in order to learn something new, and you got to kind of just let go and go out there, and yeah, you want to learn, but at the same time, you got to not be so rigid with what you're doing and what you've been taught yourself.
See, I asked that because one of my struggles as a strength coach for 20 years was when you're in the weight room for 12 hours, you might have to train afterwards, or sometimes you have to train before, and I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes I lost that motivation on the day. Yeah. And I think I'm a pretty motivated guy in the weight room, but there would just be days where I'm like, I've been coaching the squat all day. I don't want to think squats. I don't want to squat. Did you deal with that?
Oh, definitely. And for me, I was always, and I use the word always, but it's never always, but I always tried to get my training in as early as possible, because just even if it meant I had to get up even earlier, but just like you, once you get doing, it becomes 5, 6 o'clock. It's definitely very difficult to work it in. So that was something where I know, okay, Tuesdays, it might be my lighter day on the workload, and with work, I know that's the day that I have to squat. If I'm gonna squat any day, it's going to give me the most lead-in time. That's the day I'm going to do it. So I kind of just find the 2 days that I had the most time and work around them.
It's funny. I'm glad I wasn't the only one that would look at his semester and then draw his programming based around that.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
In similar ways, you're looking like Monday, I'm slam Monday. Monday is going to be a 30-minute conditioning day. But Tuesday, I'm open. Man, I got time. That's going to be squat day. When and does it always make sense? No.
Right.
But I think it's flexibility.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so there was always 1, maybe 2 days where I had enough of a block to say, okay, this is the day I'm going to pull, this is the day I'm going to press, or however squat or whatever. And then you don't see videos of this, but I use machines. Just because your hammer doesn't make everything a nail. So I use machines, and I'll do some bodybuilding stuff just for my own sense of peace of mind and recovery, and just to have the muscle size. So I'll go and do a bodybuilding session that lasts maybe 30 minutes. It'll be bam, 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 bam all the way through. And then if I have a day where I have 60 to maybe 90 minutes, that's where I have the gross motor movements with a high axial load and musculoskeletal adaptation, where I'm squatting, where I'm pressing, and and I may only do like 2 or 3 things, and that's it. And I do very little systems work. Then on the other days, I'll just fill in the gaps. And that's not always the way it is, but that's a general plan that I'll follow.
So would you say you like to keep your training overall simple, or do you like to cloud it up with a bunch of things? Obviously, I loaded that question, if you can't see my face.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask if he knew how to spell axial.
Yeah. It's like an A, Axl Rose sang about it. So we're talking about
now, if I'm doing some, if I'm going to do some bodybuilding stuff and selectorized machines, it's I may sit down and not get up till I go to the next machine, and that's fine. But at the same time, and then it's a great question. Like, I see people doing a lot of these variations, and it's like, but you're not good at it's the question. Do you need to be good at the foundational basic movement, then do variations, or when do the variations become the actual movement and prove it in and of itself that its own validity? Or do you need to say, like, I need a squat, and it just needs to be the squat. I don't need to put a chain on. I don't need to do a band. I don't need to do nothing, just a squat. Then, okay, I'm good at that. Then and then that's the question of coaching. I mean, how many licks to the center of a Tootsie Roll pop? I would think if you can't squat and that's your basic movement, why do you need to learn how to do much else? Now, that doesn't mean that you can't, okay, you're not hinging right. You need a kettlebell swing, or you're weak in your posterior chain. You need RDL and glute ham raise. I'm not saying you don't do that, but at the same time, if a lot of, and this is especially for beginners, you have to get good at one thing and have basic competency in order for you to do some higher. And I love cleans. I'm an Olympic-based coach, but I think even when you look at a horizontal integration and block periodization, you got to dose it accordingly. You can't just, like, the first thing I did, and this was my biggest mistake with track when I first started my first year, I was like, I want to show you how smart I think I am. And we're going to jump, we're going to throw, we're going to clean, we're going to squat, we're going to box squat too. And it's like, and you're like, oh, but then your coach actually did some depth jumps out in practice wearing a weighted vest. And, I'm going to come in and I'm actually just going to teach you how to land today. It's kind of like, it's the cart before the horse. So it's basically, I just said, what do we need to get better at? Let's slow this down and just take our time and just, it needs to be a crock pot. It's not sink or swim. It shouldn't be a complete pass or fail. And that's just more how I see training in general. I think people need basics now more than ever.
So, a couple great points there. One, and I know probably my biggest programming mistake through my career is coming up under kind of the West Side mentality, was too many variations too soon. Like you said, if you can't squat, why are you worried about 10 variations of squat? If you can't deadlift, why are you worried about rack pulls? But I think that was a great point. And this one, I want to delve into what you just said there. If a coach has you did 200 jumps during practice or some absurd amount of jumps, and I'm going to come in and do 3 sets of 3 jumps like I'm making a difference.
Yeah, right.
I've often said, especially with those athletes, when, if you look at the force velocity curve and talk about surfing the curve, getting those fast, getting those slow, getting everything in between, my belief had always been, thank you, I stole it, don't worry, from someone.
It's all good.
My belief has always been, honestly, a lot of that, the jumping stuff, it's taken care of in practice.
Yeah.
My job's more that middle and top where I'm working on strength, power, and you know what? They've already done their plyometrics. Like, go to a track practice. Where did you fall on that later in your career?
So just, and again, I'm going to speak specifically to track, and this is something that, so it kind of took not even the third year, is like, guys, I have got to have them sooner before you start doing anything with them. I can't be competing with their soreness. So if you're going to just doing just like a general adaptive phase of running, and you're going to do slow, steady state jogging, I need to get them at least 2 weeks before you do anything with them. And that's just to get them sore. And it was kind of like, I was just trying to get them sooner and sooner just to get their soreness, just to teach them. And a lot of the jumping, I kept it very, very low level, whether it's box jumps, and I would use landing drills in order as cues for the cleans, like, hey, snap a picture. This is how you land when you jump. This is how you land when you clean. Let's just look at just some basic postural and strength in certain postural movements. But I wouldn't go. It wasn't until, and that's the issue with a lot of, if you're a track coach out there, you have to know what your coaches are doing, because I had 3 different coaches. And one coach, he's never going to do anything different. So they could do a little bit more jumping. They're going to run around the track, and he's going to time them, and they're going to do different distances, and he's not going to do sled, anything, and that's his prerogative. So, but the other coach, it's almost like, hey, he's going to go out there and he's going to do bounding with a bar in the back. And that's something too, you just have to have a dialogue with some of the athletes, that if you have something programmed, say, okay, we're not going to do that today. And you have the responsibility or the right as an athlete to, at the very least, ask me. I may not agree with you, and I may say no, but at the same time, you're perfectly open at any point in time to ask me why we're doing something. I may not give you a complete answer at that particular time just because we're having to go forward, but if I can't explain it, then I shouldn't be doing it. So, but there was a lot of athletes, and that's something, learning the athletes, like, oh, I just don't want to do that today. That's different than, hey, we actually just got done doing this at practice, and can we do something a little bit different? So err to the side of caution on it. But I didn't do a whole lot of jumping after that first year, second year, because I figured out they were just doing so much at practice, and we kept more of the, I don't want to say jumping, but the high velocity stuff into the actual Olympic lifting.
So with that stuff, you kind of have to coach on the fly, it seems, too.
Program it?
Yeah.
I think program it, but then, if it's something, but that's why you're there, right?
Right. I feel like a lot of younger coaches, when you have to say, hey, this is not going to work, what do I do next? They kind of have a deer in the headlights look. Did it take you time to learn that, or was it easy for you because you were a little, more mature when you started there?
So what I look at, and you can apply this almost anything, CJ, is a hierarchy of training. It's okay. You can't squat today, or you can't front squat. Okay. And so if you can't front squat with a clean grip, so we're going to use straps. Okay, you can't front squat with a clean strip with straps. Okay, we're going to do the crossover grip. You can't do that either. Okay, we're going to goblet squat. Okay, you can't goblet squat. We're going to leg press. Okay, you can't leg press. You're going to leg extension. But if you go all the way down the hierarchy, you're going to get to certain points like you probably can't do any of this, or there's something actually wrong, and we need to actually address something bigger. Or just like a clean, you can't catch a clean. All right, so we're going to try a high pull. And, just kind of, you take your hierarchy and whatever it is, you don't go from, hey, you can't front squat to you're going to do leg extensions. You just skipped a whole lot of exercises here, whether even a pitch shark, if you have access to that, or a belt squat. So I just think just like with anything, you just kind of go down the hierarchy. Okay, I can't do this. What's the next one I can do? What's the next? We had one athlete, he couldn't pull from the floor, do cleans. So he did a lot of hang cleans or hang snatches. But even that, after a while, he just got tired of doing them. So what's the next rate of force development movement that he could do? Okay, can he do a dumbbell squat jump? Or a bar squat jump? Something like that. Okay. Or a box jump, something along those lines where there's some kind of external resistance, there's still triple extension and rate of force development. So it's just, I think you started, and you don't have to start at the highest point of the hierarchy. It's just you start at the highest point of whatever your exercise is, and you work your way down. Now, if you may have somebody, and this is where you're just, knowing the situation, you don't need to do, you may just need to today do very little. Your issue is actually you have an ankle issue and you need to actually do leg extension, and we're just skipping a lot of steps here. So that's the difference in knowing. But more often than not, move down your hierarchy.
Hey, Zach, I guarantee nobody on this podcast has ever done a bar squat jump before. Can you describe what that is to us? It sounds like torture and maybe something our members would like to try.
Zach, that was Jesus speaking from upstairs, because you can't see anyone. Hey, Zeus.
Yeah. And so we steal things from everybody, right? And so I think Chris Beardley, he in his Strength is Specific book, he has a lot of great points to bring home. That when we talk about, CJ, the axial load with squatting and a full range of motion squat, and I look, you guys know I do full range of motion squats and I use them with the athletes, but a lot of them too. And my dog has found his bones, so a lot of them. Give a dog a bone. I think it's stuck in his paw.
Call the vet. Emergency vet.
1 second.
Oh, look at this guy's
All right.
haircut.
That's actually your haircut.
I look
So one of the points he makes up is that even though a squat is an axial load, that you want to do some in a vertical movement, you want to do some horizontal movements, like even kettlebell swings, or he even is a big proponent of glute bridges with hip extension with weighted, because your glute is contracting and at a high velocity at a short range of motion. So one of the other things he does, and we can talk quarter squats, is the squat jump. So the easiest way to do that is, the first thing you do is you just say, okay, how do you jump squat correctly? And I'll just teach them with no arm movement, put their hands across their shirt, they go down, push their knees out and forward, go to the quarter position, they jump, they stick it, and they stand. So that's a single response jump. And so then we'll do reactive jumps where they're actually having a little bit more stretch shortening cycle where they'll jump, they'll land into it and jump again. And so they're landing with correct postural technique and under control, no valgus. And so then we'll hold dumbbells because it's below the center of gravity. The problem with dumbbells after a while is that you kind of get to there's a limit of what weight they can use, because if you get too big of dumbbells, they're going to hit your thighs, and because of people's grips. So then we progress into the bar, and the bar, you kind of just have to pull the bar down a little bit. And basically you can either do the single response jumps and you kind of regress the progress, since now you have an external resistance. Go to a single response jump before you do the reactive, and you just basically rapidly go down to a quarter squat. You jump as high as you can, get full triple extension, and you land with your knees bent a little bit, right? And then so you jump, you stick, and you stand. And then after however many cycles or training sessions, then I start to do reactive ones, and it's about 30% of your squat max or so. Always err to the side of caution, 25%.
So I want to change subjects here, because there's a lot of things we could go into here, and we could go on for about 2 hours, and Josh would probably punch me in the face if we did. But what are your best lifts? And I don't mean like, I did, the best squat of 500, or I'm sorry, that's bench. Your best squat's probably closer to 7.
This is curls.
Yes, yeah. Bench 500. But what are those lifts for you? You've competed, and you're probably the best generalist I know.
Because farmer's carries, heaviest farmer's carries.
You don't do, your farmer carries are good, your bench is good, your squat is good, your clean is good. So what are those lists for you that are the most memorable, the ones for you personally that you just love, whether it be competing or even training?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I've gone through phases. I remember when I got done playing football, I didn't bench for months, and so we did all this phase where all we did were dumbbell shoulder presses and dumbbell incline, and then bench was my favorite one. When in doubt, squat's always been my favorite. I just can't do it as frequent. There was a time where push jerk was my, like, I got to get better at push jerk, and I got to get better at this, or hang clean or clean. So I don't know if I've had one other than I've always loved the squat. I just like the primal, I don't want to say archaic, but just like the movement itself. I've always loved it, and I even find even now at 43 how much the alterations in some of my technique over all these years, like, oh, why are my feet so wide, and start to bring them back in and this and that. So what I'm saying is even I'm still learning and, adapting to different ways to do it. So I've always loved the squat. I've gone through periods of time where I've loved the bench, like I said, the push jerk, the clean. So it's always just changed. Farmers is, CJ, Farmers is definitely, I think part of that comes, I'm going to thank my dad, because I guess he said if you wanted to eat, you need to come to work, so he would actually pay me in Big Macs.
Let's put that on the back of a T-shirt. If you want to eat.
Yeah, no child labor laws here. No child labor laws here. So it got to the point where he was feeding me so much that it was just cheaper just to pay me money, and then I could figure out food for myself. But I grew up swinging a hammer and doing manual labor and shingling a roof and all that kind of stuff. And so I was fortunate to, I guess to say, have grip work, right? It wasn't towards the end of working for him that we actually had an air gun and a power nailer or whatever you call them. So it's just, so my grip in moving and having that little bit more athletic base is always, it's worked to my advantage. But now these strongmen, now it's just the two things that I've always kept me back is stone loading and deadlifting. There's this contest this weekend, and they're going to do a 500-pound deadlift, a 600-pound deadlift. Then they're actually going to do a car deadlift, and that's just part of the medley. There's no rest.
Oh my!
So it's kind of, it's an arms race. It's just these guys. It's and to me, like, to get really much better at deadlift, how much do I need to do? Is it like to get 5 pounds, 10 pounds stronger? That's kind of where I'm at in my training. Is like what like there's certain things I'm just not going to do anymore, right? And so it's kind of like, well, what do I have to do and destroy my body just to get 15, 10 pounds more? And that's, so right now I'm getting a little bit more selective, I would think.
I have to tell this lifting story. And as with any of my stories, it's about 3% true. But it's so much better when I tell it now in my memory.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
That's what I'm saying.
You caught a fish this big.
So the first time that fish I caught was this big.
Definitely.
The first time me and Zach met, I think this is the first time we met in person, was down in Nashville. And I'm in there training at Tennessee State, and I was training with Ryan Nozak. Yeah, and we're in there training, Hatebreed's cranking, and having some fun. And I remember, I think we pulled like 405 for like 17 or something, like, it was a hard set for us. And I remember I hear this voice come from the corner, and it says, "Todd Hammer's here. Oh, things are getting crazy," or something like that. And I look, and there's this 6'4", 310-pound dude rolling in. And I'm pretty sure he walked over and snatched the 405. Like, no warm-up, cold turkey, whatever.
Beard like Zeus.
He was doing cleans with the weight I was deadlifting, and I was like... And I went from 200 pounds to 146 in that moment.
I still have that picture that we took. It was
I sulked into the corner. I think we took a picture, too, where Zach at 6'4", 300 pounds, and me at, 146 pounds after it all happened. He's on the platform. So he's now 6'6".
Yeah.
It's like...
I totally went for the out angle, didn't I?
Yeah. Let's make it look even more awkward.
Out angle the heck out of it.
I remember that day. That was that was when TJ Greenstone was at Tennessee State, and he invited us over, and I guess really, Todd, let's be honest, the most memorable part about that was that I got to lift with a fellow strength coach to Hatebreed, and that's really all that matters to me.
And that's the thing about lifting. It's
because I really have I don't remember what I actually lifted that day. I just remember Hatebreed and you doing sumo deadlifts for like 3 days in a row.
Yeah, and don't worry, you were cleaning my sumo deadlift weight. But I think that's the best thing about lifting is just those, hey, we were at this place and we all trained together and had fun. Yeah. And I mean, when you came up and trained with us for a couple of days in Pittsburgh, and like those awesome. That's why we train. I think it's that moment of we're just for an hour and a half in our world.
And my one claim to fame at training at your at RMU was that the great Casey Williams spotted me, and that's really it's all that matters, right?
I'll tell you what, it taught me a lot because Casey is so explosive, and I've used this analogy 1,000 times. Watching you and him train, I just remember watching, and he was like watching a sport bike. Like, it's just explosive, it popped. And you were like watching a trash compactor. It just kept moving. Like, you had torque and he had horsepower. And I think when you look at lifters, not just the style they train in, but also what they naturally are. Casey's naturally an athletic lifter. You're a Mack truck lifter.
So one of my coworkers, Steve, he would always talk about that. He said, just kind of, and you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head that I was in the, kind of in the middle there, that you got your cheetahs and your elephants and your rhinos or whatever. And just, and guys, how they are. They're just so explosive. It's feast or famine. If they miss, they're going to miss full speed.
Mm-hmm.
Or they make it, then they're going to do 5 pounds less, and they're going to oh man, you got 100 pounds left in you. Then they put 5 pounds more and they miss it. Right.
And that was Casey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas with you, the bar always kind of kept moving, and that day will always stick with me, because watching that contrast, I think you learn so much watching different lifters from different styles doing different lifts. But we have to talk about music, because you are from Atlanta, and me and CJ are both Atlanta music fans. I want to hear about you crowd surfing circa 1999, some concerts. You got a good story.
There's got to be some.
I was never the crowd surfer. It was always like, hey, throw me up on stage, or and you actually learn how to do some gymnastic throws and this and that. So I would think that we would get together as a crew, and I guess I could say that word, the crew. We'd get together and we went to a place called the Masquerade, which unfortunately it's actually getting repurposed for another building. They're not tearing down the whole building, but they're retrofitting it or whatever. So Masquerade has moved to underground Atlanta, but it's right on North Avenue in a bad part of town. And you always had to go with your buddies. And it was like, all right, turn around every 5 seconds, kind of keep your head on the swivel. You never, it was very dangerous. And now the most dangerous thing down there is stepping on dog poop. So it's definitely,
what a change.
It's changed a lot.
It's a different world.
It is different. It is very different, and for the better. I'm not going to, I'm not trying to go back to the like even the house that I live on here. When my dad originally got the house, it didn't have street lights, and there was street lamps or nothing, and there was a lot of crime through here. And even that has changed, and it's changed for the better. But yeah, we go up to the Masquerade, and sometimes some of the bigger places or even smaller places. But Masquerade, it had heaven, hell, and purgatory, and so you would go in, and you'd walk into the right. Down in hell would be the bubble party, and then everybody's doing the glow sticks and having the bubble party, and then we're up there.
That's where CJ is.
Yeah, CJ.
I'll hang out a lot of places, man.
Yeah, we're going up, Marilyn Manson or whatever. And I think I don't know what it is now. I seem to think that there's a lot of rock bands or metal bands around, and the ones that are, it's like their greatest hits tour. It's just. Yeah. I don't want to say back in my day, but I think in the 90s when you had Slayer, when you had Crowbar, you had Pantera, you had all these Korn, you had Deftones, all these bands used to come through, even these weird ones like Genital Torturers or Gwar, and Gwar's, they got these, like fetuses, and they're showing them up in their
blood. Yeah.
Just like, oh my God, what am I watching here?
But we both know you have that spot in your heart for Cinderella and the greatest album ever.
No doubt.
Night Songs, the greatest hair metal album ever.
And to say Cinderella and Poison, I guess I had to. I used to love Twisted Sister and the hair bands and it was. I guess maybe I like more the theatrics of some of it too. And I don't know what that says exactly. That I think that you look at Slipknot, which I think are actually accomplished artists, but there's something draws to you like the mask, and it's not about how we look, or even what is it? The guy just died, MF Doom. He wore a mask, right? And he's like, hey, it's not about how we look. The first time you see Corey Taylor without a mask on, like, oh my God. Look at Kiss. I mean, Kiss didn't do really well once they took their makeup off, and they went back to it.
I think of Corey Taylor. I always think of that Through the Glass song.
Yeah.
Stone Sour, and it just...
The country song? Didn't he do a country
album? I don't know. I hope not. But MF Doom...
Tread lightly when you speak on Corey Taylor.
I've seen...
I'll take you out right now, Hammer.
I've seen Slipknot only once, and they're with Lamb of God. And as a Lamb of God fanboy, Lamb of God blew him out of the water.
Oh, really?
But this was on the documentary about Lamb of God, and I remember Randy Blythe said this, and he said, I don't know what it is. It's a visceral response. And that, to me, defines music. Like, you're looking for that response. And it's the same as being a strength coach. What are you trying to do when someone enters the room? It's a visceral response. You're trying to get some response from the athlete.
Right.
Musicians, MF Doom, great example. It was funny today. It hit me that MF Doom, you may not know this, was on a Third Base song. If you remember the song Gas Face from Third Base, the rap band in the 90s, MF Doom was 18 years old. I forget what he went by, but he was on that song. So I sent it to one of our trainers here and was like, I know you're an MF Doom guy. This was the MF Doom when he was 18, and he went
Really?
by some strange name on a Third Base album. But that ties really well into my next question about comic books, because I know a few years back you were at Comic-Con or something, and you had an extra medium shirt you'd put on, and I
It's
said,
normal. Hold on, you're not narrowing it down.
and I said, Zach, did they not have a shirt in large dude size? And you said, yeah, Comic-Con doesn't make shirts for me. And it was like a Hulk shirt or a Superman or something. I know you're a big.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I know you're a big reader and comic book guy. One, how did that come about? Two, what do you recommend for people as far as reading, as far as comic books, as far as cultural, diversifying themselves?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I used to live in Mableton, it's outside Atlanta here. I walked up to the store, and it was basically in this is kind of before the direct market. We could still, and look, I think I'm not asking for anybody to thank me, but at 43, I'd like to think I had some part in the multi-billion-dollar industry that nerds and geeks and outcast weirdos are like. You never used to tell anybody you read comic books. It was like, what do you read? No, nothing. You kind of just, you're closing it up, and you're hiding them in your desk as a kid or whatever. And just they were definitely not as accepted as they are now. And the direct market, you have the comic book stores, but you could find comic books at a lot of places when you were young, like 7-Eleven, gas stations. And so this was like a baseball card shop. And so I walk in, and there's this black woman with white hair, and there's this dude with claws popping out, and there's this big muscle guy with chrome steel body, and there's this guy shooting lasers out of his eyes, and another dude sitting in a chair that's in a wheelchair, and it's like, holy crap, what is this? And it was the X-Men, and the mutants, the outcasts, and they had this comic. It was called Classic X-Men. It was basically reprints from the late 70s, because Chris Claremont was on it for like 20 years. Almost everything.
You're getting Josh is jumping up and down in his chair here. He's like, this is, I know, I'm with them. Terrible towels waving.
And it's like, what is this? And like, right, I just was hooked. That and obviously everyone else loved, I love Batman, but and the Hulk, it's like the Hulk and the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde motif and all this is like, as a kid, you watch TV and way back when, CJ, you'd actually had to get up and change the channels, or you went from.
I don't have a clicker now, man. It's the same time. Time.
But it's hipster now, not to have a remote. I don't have a remote as I drink my coffee.
In the old, in the Lou Ferrigno and Bill Baxby, I just forgot his name, Baxby. Yeah, they did the show, the Hulk show. Yeah, and so it's just like you were familiar with the Hulk, but it was kind of. Like you didn't have to learn a lot about the Hulk to get into it, right? He's going to piss him off. He's going to go in a rage. But the X-Men was cool. It had so many different cool characters and artists and all that. And that's kind of how it just got started, and it branched out from there. And I read for a lot of time, and just like a lot of people, high school hit. And then the things of high school took over, and I didn't read for years. And it wasn't until that writer, Chris Claremont, he came back to the X-Men, and I'd heard about it somehow. And I was in college, I think graduate school or something. I was like, man, he's coming back to the X-Men. I want to see what this is like. And I went up and I found a local comic book store, and I just started back up again. I was like, wow, I've missed a lot, right? And I just started, picking stuff up again. And comics have changed too, because now they're very reprint heavy. So you can find a lot of really good reprints to where they're in the trade paperbacks. So you can get a lot of stories without having to go get and comics have changed too. There used to be on little more newspapery, pulpish kind of paper. And now they're kind of glossy and overpriced, but you can get it a lot cheaper as a reprint. So that's what I do a lot of.
See, you this was a while back, and you may not remember it, but you texted me a year ago, and you said, "Hey, whatever, I was thinking about you because I was reading, and I forget it was like To Kill a Mockingbird or some classic."
Yeah.
And you're like, in this line, it kind of made me think this, and you text me, and I was like, I love this guy. What kind of strength coach is sitting on the subway on the way home reading To Kill a or whatever? And I don't even remember what you were reading, but it was a classic. And I think so many young people get into the profession and they think go, 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 gas, gas, gas. And, you have to have that other outlet, the other side of you. And I think whether it be art, and I know, you like art and comics and reading and literature, I think so many people are afraid to express that side of them early on in the profession.
Well, so I think a lot of people say, well, like, what book do I need to read? And automatically, when as a strength coach, yeah, we're going to give our list of strength conditioning books. Like, well, why don't you read a book like Ender's Game or something like that to see the power of a kid and how they're in a way manipulated to do something at the will of an older person and somebody in charge, and but also how strong a young person can be, and that you don't always look at a bigger person and think that they're going to be great at something. Look at somebody that's undersized or in like intelligence is a strong factor in competition, and let's look at it different ways, and books do that. Books, they break down just I guess in a way a lot of stereotypes. You got to, and it's not just about a training book, it's about how you relate to people too, and I think that's what books do. It helps you learn how to relate, and you can be a master technician in X and those, but if you can't talk to people, it's like they're going to tune out pretty quick. And I think that's what helped too. It's like, oh, who's going to win between Thor and Hulk? Well, this is what I think will happen or whatever. But especially Georgia Tech with all the Star Wars stuff, I don't know exactly. I don't necessarily do it because it's for somebody else. I think reading helps calm me down and center myself, and I enjoy it. And to say what comic book somebody should read, that's the beauty of them. There's so many different genres, just like books. There's just so many different genres to choose from, whether it's 50 Shades of Grey to Harry Potter and or to whatever it is something I just think just reading. People say like, oh, they don't want to do it because it takes time, but that's why you got to do it, because there's times when I'll read a paragraph 4 times over. It's alphabet soup. That's why you have to do it, because it slows you down and it forces you to try to have some comprehension and piece it all together. And you're not always going to, I've read a book and like, I'm a chapter in, I'm like, what is going on? Like Dune, I put it down after I started reading. I said, I'm not reading this. And I was like, no, I got to do this. And so I started rereading again, and I just got that first chapter done. And then, it don't completely still make sense to me, but it made sense to me once I just kept going with it. And I've put don't get me wrong, Todd, I've put books away and I'm like, okay, that's not for me. But sometimes like that's part of the process, is trying to figure out what is going on, right?
It's funny. I had 2 thoughts when you were saying that. And one was, when people ask me what books do I read, I say, what book do you want to read? Because to me, Science of Practice, Strength Training, if you want to be a strength coach, start with Science of Practice. It's pretty easy to read. It's easy. It's digestible. It's not too long. It's not super training. That's a good start. But are you actually going to want to read it? Are you going to be engaged with that book? And a friend of one of my mentors is an attorney, gave me Kafka.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, like, I read it, and that's one of those books that still haunts me. The trial where he's in this kind of almost Orwellian universe.
Yeah, well, it's Kafkaesque. That's what he created the term. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean before. Yeah, so actually that was pre-Orwellian universes. Right. He was the original, and to me that book still haunts me because it taught me so much about culture, about myself, about communication, and it had nothing to do with that. And I think many people who don't read literature will never understand that.
Right.
What that book taught me, when I'm still unwrapping what it taught me.
Definitely. Kafka is one of the best ones. There's some of the stuff that's like, okay, I hate this, but yeah, his the trial, his Metamorphosis is, and The Hunger Artist is a great one. The Penal Colony is a great one. Yeah, to think, Todd, that he wanted to burn all that stuff or throw it away, and he told his friend to destroy all of it when he died. When he died, his friend didn't. So a lot of the stuff that we actually have is because he went against a dying man's wishes, which is crazy.
I'm glad he did, because it still haunts me.
That's pretty hardcore.
It still absolutely haunts me. Well, hey, listen, we have gone on for an hour already, man. This is gonna be one of our record long ones, which I think is awesome. CJ, you got any other queries?
My mind's blown. I'm gonna have to check out this Kafka. I've never heard of it before.
Kafka.
Yeah, I know I can't talk. That's why I've never heard about it.
The one that most people are familiar with is Metamorphosis, because he turns into a beetle. But once you start to look at it, it's like it's not a literal meaning that he turns into a beetle. He is something that is now grotesque that nobody wants to be around.
I think I've actually heard of that one. I think I've heard
Isolation.
Henry Rollins wrote some similar stuff, but in his he's much more clear about it. So you should read some early of Henry's. You've probably read Henry Rollins' early stuff, and he's just out in left field, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I've listened more to his spoken word, and some of his story, how he was working in a restaurant or something like that, and some guys are like, "Hey, we like what you did," or something. You want to join this band, and that's where it started.
That's how it all started. But yeah, his early reading, his early books, which he couldn't get published, so he just started his own company. I'll self-publish and start a publishing company. But his early writing is mind-blowing. You should check it out. You should check it out.
I think I will. I need to write it down.
You're not writing.
Well,
It's all on record.
Well, CJ, I will tell you his video. If you're a big video guy, Liar is probably the best video of all time.
That's a great video.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack in that song.
Okay. It's
Yeah,
on the
definitely.
YouTubes.
It is.
Well, Zach, man, I loved having you here.
Yeah,
It's
you're the
always
man.
great to talk to you. When we host our strength and conditioning clinic here, we are flying Zach Reed up. We're having him train here,
CJ.
I'm all for it.
hang out. CJ is in charge of that
Yeah.
because I just announced it right this second.
You know what we'll do? We'll do one better. Hammer is buying a van. We'll trick it out, road trip down to you, pick you up in style, and bring you here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to show you actually, if I have my keychain, a former intern was in, and she bought me this keychain. You can't see it, but it says, "Love everyone, travel everywhere, and destroy everything." And she said, "This will be your van keychain."
Wow.
So this is the official van. I'm buying a minivan, and we were tricking it out just for camping. And it's got a bike rack. It's gonna be fun.
Todd, how many times have you had to explain "Destroy Everything" to the common layman that's like, man, this song is so negative?
Angry
Well,
music.
true
It's so
story,
angry.
Tenzig, his last year in daycare, before he went off to kindergarten, was in there, and he's singing it, "Destroy everything." And he gets in trouble, because you can't say "destroy everything" in daycare. And the daycare lady's like, "Tenzig, you can't say it." He's like, "No, I'm destroying everything." She's like, "Tenzig, you can't say that." And this goes back and forth. And finally, he says to me, "Dad, I said to her, the song's not about destroying the bad things, like trees and your house will stay. He wants to destroy the bad things, like the guns and the things that hurt people." And it didn't help. He still got in trouble. But
He knows the purpose.
he has his first concert coming up this summer. So let's all hope that concerts are a thing again this summer.
Anyone in particular, or just whatever comes up?
My newest musical hero, Jason Isbell. He's kind of an alt country guy, but he is really, just Google him. I think you would dig like his message.
Okay. What's his name?
Jason Isbell. Isbell.
I think it's a Z.
S.
Is this? Okay.
S. Don't get lippy with me. He has a really interesting song that was the one that really caught me.
Yep.
It's called White Man's World, and it's about him growing up in rural Alabama, dealing with what he thought he knew of the world as a white man growing up in rural Alabama, and how many kind of and that's kind of how I got into him. It was like he's dealing with things a lot of people where he's from wouldn't deal with. He's thinking differently than people that he was around. So that's what kind of got me digging him. So, we have tickets. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah, product versus environment. Yeah. Well, hopefully, and hopefully, things are going to start to pick up for a lot of people. It's we're living through history, right?
It's been a weird
good,
week,
the
man.
bad.
Yeah.
The last week's been weird. Well, Zach, again, thanks for coming on. Do you have any parting thoughts, messages for any of us out here in
Any
Pittsburgh?
sweet Yoda quotes you want to drop on us? Wisdom.
Well, I mean, no real Yoda quotes. I just there is no try. There's only do or do not, and that's always a classic one. But I would say that even with COVID and all this, that one of the things that I do listen to and follow is the Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius, and to know that he actually went through a plague while he was the emperor, that they would burn incense just to cover up the smell of dead people, right? And so I think history definitely can teach us a lot, and going. I don't want to say that what we are doing has been done before, because modern civilization is so brand new, and we're trying to just keep up with technology. I don't know if we are growing as fast as some of our technology, and I think that's why it's important for us to stay rooted and grounded. And whether it's training and all the new trends and everything, and the pendulum swings so fast that we can't keep up. But we got to, as long as we continue with the basics and keep up with human relationships. I mean, because that's the end of the day what it's all about, right?
Exactly, man. Well, Zach, it was awesome having you here. Can't wait to root for your team next year. Whoever that may be, we know it will be someone.
Excited
but we
to
can't
hear.
wait. We will be the number 1 fans. We expect to get our T-shirts. And whenever the game's in Pittsburgh, we're there, brother.
All right, good deal. All right, guys, it's great. CJ, it's great to see you, even though you have all your tattoos and muscles covered up.
Hidden.
They're hidden.
I was scared to present them in front of you.
Show, you can show this.
Oh, you did.
this
Oh,
one.
check this one out. You haven't seen this one. This is a Godzilla one. You might not be able to see it.
Gojira.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, Gojira. Very good.
Whoa.
Very good.
Oy.
I'm not surprised that
See?
you knew that at all. You know? We can't tell. We'll tell you this other story another time, but
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
We'll go off air, tell a lot of stories. Thanks, man. Awesome seeing
All right,
you.
guys. Yeah,
Take care.
You as well. See you.
cheers. Yeah,
So
man.
Andy Rooney from the end of 60 Minutes circa 2004 is with us now.
And you know what really hurts me? So, it's my time to shine. Ham, Gibbs, and Gabs all the time now. He doesn't know when to back up. So, this week and last week, the two of the smartest dudes we've had on the podcast, probably, for sure.
Who
Yes?
was last week?
Huh?
Who was last
Well,
week?
2 weeks
Cancer.
ago was
Oh, Rick, yeah. Rick.
old Rick. So many people come to us with questions about what to do for training, and they muddy it up with all this madness. Too much.
Madness.
And Zach Reed said it perfectly. He said, build the basics, and then worry about the extra stuff before the extra stuff becomes the real stuff.
Don't major in a minor.
So, I mean, what do we need to do to get through to people that you can just do the basics, and it is sexy. It's hot. It's good looking.
Is that HAWT?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. The problem.
Because if I say, hey, man,
the problem
all you
is
need to
they're
do is
hard.
squat.
Squats are hard. Deadlifts are hard.
But aren't they also sexy because they're hard? You know what I'm saying?
You know what grinds my gears? Glute bridges. They're easy. That's
People
why
love-
people love glute bridges.
And you could load them up. How much do they really build the booty compared to a squat and a deadlift?
This is why our leg press is great. Most leg presses are easy.
This leg press is hard.
Ours is hard.
Right. Rick basically said do something
That sucks.
that sucks.
Every day.
30 to 60 minutes.
I just rowed a 2K. I hate rowing.
And you'll probably come out on the better end.
I almost had a heart attack. I'm old.
Well, you know what, man?
Yes. Dude,
What can we do to make people's lives better?
make it suck more sometimes.
Do you think people are afraid to make things suck? Like they'll exercise, but they'll walk on the treadmill and not get sweaty, and then they said they exercised. Or they'll do like some 2-pound kettlebell stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how do we make it suck for them to make it happen?
You know, one of our very wise trainers here created a four squares. What are those called again? And on the x-axis, it said, will it make me better? On the y-axis, it said, do I enjoy it? And he said, now put an X somewhere for each thing. Will it make me better? Do I enjoy it? And too often people go to that do I enjoy it axis
Right.
and ignore the will I make it better. I actually took that home to my son and I put it on the wall. It's in my kitchen now.
Cody's
And
art's on your wall.
Well, no, I made it. It's Cody's thought, my art. I'm a great artist. But every day you have to do something that's going to make you better that you won't enjoy. You have to do something that you enjoy, and you have to do something that is both. Every single day. That's a fair rule. So if every person came in and said, listen, what's my least favorite lift?
Rear Bulgarian splitties.
No, just squats.
Oh,
I don't enjoy, like Zachary just sat here for an hour
That's my least favorite.
just bowing down to the greatness of a squat. Is Zachary stronger than every human in his room right now?
Combined,
Yes.
unfortunately.
And what's his favorite lift? The squat. What's my least favorite lift? The squat.
All
So I think the lesson is that Cody, that Zach, that Rick has taught us. Do something that you don't enjoy that makes you better. Do something you enjoy and do something that's both. If that's all you did in a program, you'd have a hell of a program.
I liked what Zach said too about, and you alluded to it, Hammer, about guys throw chains on stuff without ever mastering the squat. CJ, how important do you think it is that you have your basic movements down, and what do you think are the basic movements that matter the most? You've told everybody get clean, take everything away. What are you're going in the gym, you got 5 workouts in you. What are they that we need to master before we start throwing chains and getting wild?
Well, dude, I don't even know if we need to master anything. At least be like a decent jack of the trade here, because then you turn into like the Vernon Griffins, and nothing wrong with him, but like the coaches that spend 45 minutes on prehab before they even get to their squats. Before,
And for the record, CJ steals a lot from Vernon.
and I
so-
steal a lot from Vernon. I like Vernon. I
Yeah.
just meant he is a master of other corners.
My answer would be simple: master a squat, and you don't have to be the greatest squatter ever. Just be competent. Master a press, preferably an overhead. And master a deadlift to some level.
Yeah.
And
You gotta push, pull, hinge, carry,
and
press something over your head.
And then when you're done, do some lunging and some jumping jacks and maybe a dead bug, and you'll feel better. I actually have a rule I used to give people. I'd say if you go to a gym and you're not sure if it was hard enough, or you don't know what to do next, do 10 push-ups. If you get up and you still are there, do 10 more. If you get up, you can keep doing that until you either know it's been hard enough or you figured out what to do next. If you say, what do I do next? 10 push-ups. Stand up. Have you figured it out yet? No, do 10 more. If you set a simple role for yourself like that, you're going to figure it out real quick. I would say 10 burpees, but we all know burpees are the lowest common denominator of exercise. Is what people do when
Yeah.
they have no other thoughts in
You
their
get lost,
brain.
and they don't even do it right.
No, it's bad. Burpees are ugly. So, moral story: squat, get strong, do things that suck, do things you enjoy sometimes, and don't do burpees.
And get bumpy.
Only do a burpee if Grayson's with you.
You happy with that?
I think so.
Okay.
It's the first
Hey,
one.
rest in peace,
Perfect.
MF Doom.
It's the first one, and we'll get better as we go.
All right. Then the last thing I want you to do is wrap up the show.
What do I say?
Whatever you want to say, Hammer.
Okay, tell me when.
3, 2.
And thank you for listening to this week to the great talk we just had with Zach Reed here at the Union Fitness Podcast.
Hot
And thank
Lamazon.
you to our own Josh Elsas and
The dirtiest mustache in the room, the producer,
Charles Jasper,
and the
too.
cleanest mustache in the house,
Charles the Van Jasper.
Wilder Jasper.
Peace and love.